Folks, Jeff Younger is here tonight, and for those of you that don't know, he's been fighting to stop his ex-wife from transitioning his 8-year-old son to a girl. Not only have Texas courts done nothing to protect an innocent boy, the court-ordered psychologist, in this case, recommended the then 6-year-old boy be medically, chemically, and socially transitioned to a girl. It's happening here in Texas. Despite evidence showing the boy has no gender dysphoria and prefers being a boy, the courts allowed the ex-wife to keep primary custody. Mr. Younger continues the fight for his son. The courts need legislative guidance on transgender child abuse for Mr. Younger's son and many children like him. Mr. Younger fights to stop transgender child abuse in the courts, in the legislature, and in the public discourse. After many battles, he has developed well-supported conjectures about how the left achieves victory politically and even within the Republican Party. Folks, Jeff Younger.
I always like to start with gratitude. I really want to thank Mass Resistance. They're one of the few street-level activist organizations that's gotten results, and they've gotten results in California, where it's virtually impossible to get results. I want to thank Lou Gomer, because, folks, you know we have a problem with the deep state. There's about 3 people in the national legislature who are willing to take that bunch of people on and try to fix things, and he's one of them. So we got to protect him. 2, we got to get him reelected over and over again. And 3, we need to do what he asks and support his program to beat back that deep state. I want to thank Kevin Whitt. Kevin has asked me to be on his advisory board. I've accepted, and I'm proud to be here. Tracy Shannon and I have also just done a lot of work in the legislature. I've watched Tracy stare down many a leftist in the corridors of power. But one thing that's just I've always wondered about, I mean, you can tell Kevin is willing to get in people's faces. He's aggressive for righteous causes. The man has balls. How did he ever think you were a woman? I just can't quite get that in my head. I want to begin my speech. I like to do this. I know that the left infiltrates our meetings. They watch what we do. I always like to speak to them first. When will you cease abusing our patience? How long will you mock us for our righteous causes? How long do you believe we're going to let you do those things? Now I'm going to talk to you, my fellow conservatives. When are you going to end the left's, unbridled audacity to destroy our cultural norms? The thing I can't stand is their insufferable swaggering through the corridors of power that I've seen in our legislatures, both national and state. It's disgusting. And the looting and destroying of our cities that we've recently seen, the persecution of our citizens in Washington, D.C., who did nothing but exercise their political rights. When will this end? I ask you, does not the sexual mutilation of children stir you to battle? Does not the chemical castration of children in clinics, permanent sterilization of children, does that not like raise your spirit to go do something? Do not the schools that Tracy Shannon just talked about, abusing our children, abusing our rights as parents to the moral and mental education of our children, does that not raise you to battle in your local communities? They're teaching boys that they're girls, girls that they're boys. They're reversing nature and nature's God. And I think you all know full well what is the reverse of nature's God. Now I ask you again, You see this Constitution. I'm sure you've read the Declaration of Independence. Is what I'm describing to you not a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evincing the insidious design to reduce us to arbitrary power under absolute leftist despotism? Does that not meet the criteria of the Declaration? Have we not reached that? Shame on this age. Shame on its principles, I tell you. I'm so tired of it. The people are aware of these outrages. The legislature is aware of these usurpations. The courts are aware of these injustices. The governor of the state of Texas is aware of these mad and lawless acts that are being perpetrated on our children. And yet these medical and psychological child abusers, they walk free. They feel safe while we cower in our homes, as the left burns our cities, makes us wear masks, and rapes our children in buildings they call clinics. These transgender child abusers, as anyone here who's been in the legislature and participated in the last session can tell you, take part in our public deliberations as though they're equal to us, as though they are morally on the same plane as us. No, I'm not saying it hard enough. They actually run and control those public deliberations. I urge you to go look at the Senate testimony for 1399 and see what the left did. They run those. The Democrats ran it. They mark down everyone who speaks against them. Kevin Whitt has been through this. Tracy Shannon has been through this. I have been through this. You have been through this. Sarah's been through this. Paul, you've been through this. He's a January 6th survivor from the FBI.
Thanks, Paul.
And we, being principled conservatives, think that we're winning. All we're doing is slowing down the train. We're slowing down the leftist train. It's got to be blown off the tracks.
Amen.
Long ago, and I think I'm criticizing myself here. Long ago, I mean back in the 90s before I left the country, I was out of the country for a long time. We should have given absolutely nothing to the left.
No compromise.
No respect. No fair debate. No platform. Nothing. And we should have taken away everything from them. All of the public money that goes to their causes, all of their ability to organize in public spaces. We should have done this in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how they organized. I'm going to tell you how the Genesis Clinic here in Dallas, Texas got built. I'm going to tell you how they're operating on a level that you have not yet contemplated. And you've got to elevate your understanding and your fighting spirit in order to beat these people. That Genesis Clinic costs about $100 million to build. You ever wonder why they call it the Genesis Clinic? Genecis, like cisgender? That was to mock you as a Christian. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
Okay, $100 million to build this thing. They went into key Senate districts in this state and took out loans for that clinic in those key districts out of banks that are major donors to your elected officials. Now, when we go in there and say we want to shut that clinic down, you can't chemically castrate kids in that clinic. You can't refer kids to have their balls and penis cut off anymore. We are threatening big donor money for very influential people in the state. They did the same thing in Idaho. That's when I first figured it out, because I was very perplexed in Idaho. Idaho, like Texas, Republicans control all three branches of government. The House passed a bill, just the opposite of here. The House passed a bill to ban sex change surgeries, and their Senate rejected it. And I went up there, a family up there, and studied this. And what I discovered after talking to journalists and legislators is they use this financial strategy up there too. They are playing on a different level than you are. You cannot allow them free reign in your state. You can't play by the rules. You can't let them have access to banks and institutions in your state. You need to stop it. And I'm going to tell you a little story. During the legislative session, Tracy knows about this, my representative wasn't so helpful. So a long time ago, I stopped looking for the means of persuasion. I look for the means of coercion. That's how I think about it. I find their center of gravity, and I remove it. So there's a bank, there was a big donor. I went and talked to the president of that bank. And I said, you know, basically it's a nice bank here. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Now, he didn't take me very seriously. And then I showed him the flyers. And I showed him the 55 people out on the street. And this flyer had this bank president's face on a rancher who's castrating a bull. And it had, below it, it said this, and I'm going to leave out names, but this bank supports the chemical castration of kids in the state of Texas. And it had 3 nearby banks that I had arranged to organize specials if you would transfer your checking account to those banks. And we handed out to every customer that day. Next thing you know, I'm getting support on my bill. He's co-sponsored. I get what I want. I'm trying to explain to you how the world works. Donors have a lot of power. The left knows how to exploit donors, and we don't. Why? We still think the government works by this law. There's also one of these for Texas. And the one for Texas is outstanding. If you've never read it, you should read it. It gives vastly superior protections to free speech and free religion and the keeping and bearing of arms than even the federal Constitution. You basically cannot do any prior restraint on speech in the state of Texas. Okay? The problem is that we still think the government runs like this. I think Louis Gohmert will tell us there's some significant differences in how the agencies administer this country than this doctrine, this document. We have to stop kidding ourselves. We have to start asking ourselves, in conditions where the government won't follow the law, how do you make political change happen? The left has always had that advantage over us. They can rely on us to follow the law. We don't have that advantage. We're going to have to coerce our opponents. How many of you know what happened with my son? I don't want to repeat everything. Almost everybody. But I'm going to bring you up to date on some disturbing events. You may not know this, but this talk I'm giving to you is illegal. What? A judge has issued a gag order on me, and I am not allowed to talk to you about any transgender issue, any LGBT issue. I'm prohibited from giving, listen to this, any speech, any public speech. I may not make any blog posts of any kind about any topic. I may not post to social media about anything for any reason.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. And the free speech protections of Texas. So, opposing counsel brought me up for contempt on this. I appeared before the judge. I've done so twice. This is Judge Mary Brown, 301st District Court. And I told Judge Mary Brown, and I tell you again, Judge Mary Brown, I tell you again, if you believe that gag order is legal, constitutional, and moral, you are obligated to give me the maximum criminal sentence under criminal contempt that you can give in the state of Texas. I have already written a writ of habeas corpus. We will go to the Texas Supreme Court and we will see who is right.
Amen.
Until that happens, I will never stop defending my son in public. I will never stop pushing for change in this state, legislative change to end the sexual mutilation of children. And I will never obey another unconstitutional order, law, or mandate again. Ever. Easier said than done, I'll tell you that much. You know, I have a hashtag I've been using on social media, little jail won't kill you. I'll tell you what's coming if you don't stop. This fascist totalitarianism that this government is turning to, that will kill you. That will kill you. Little jail won't kill you. Little jail might stop it. Now I have a favorite Marine. Every Marine's favorite Marine is Chesty Puller. He won the Chosin Reservoir campaign. He led the invasion of Incheon. He was a China Marine. He predicted the war with Japan and developed all of our tactics against the Japanese in the Pacific. You go to any Marine barracks, and there will be a painting of Chesty Puller. When he was surrounded at the Chosin Reservoir, he was surrounded by about 100,000 Chinese. He had 30,000 troops. Anybody from the Army here? Army? Okay. So about 3/4 of them were Army. And he gathered his staff together, and he said, well, we're surrounded now, but that sort of simplifies our tactical problem. It's not such a bad thing to be surrounded. And then he spontaneously created the nighttime breakout tactics, which have become standard in almost every military academy in the world. And he invented those on the spot. He's really an amazing man. You should read about him. He had one principle of leadership, and I agree with him. I don't believe in leadership styles. There's one leadership style. Lead by example. Pick up the machine gun and go, and other people will do what you do. Every one of you can do that. So, hey, I'm an applied mathematician and programmer. I'm a guy that sits in a closet and does stuff on a keyboard all day. All right? So, if I could get out here and figure out how all this works, you can too. And you're going to fear for your reputation. You're going to be afraid people are going to call you names. Well, I'm going to tell you something else about it. Something spiritual about this. So in my divorce, every lie imaginable was told about me. But a lot of the things that were said bad about me were true. A lot of them were true. So everything bad I've ever actually done was put into the public eye. Actually sent in letters to my employers by my ex-wife. Every bad thing everybody thought I did that I didn't do has been put in public. And everything I really sort of wanted to do but didn't do has been put in public. And it has the character of a public confession to your congregation. All of you know from that I'm a sinner. I'm repenting like everybody else, and I sin every day. So are you. And you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're embarrassed. Nobody's going to care if you're afraid, if you misspeak in public. Nobody's going to care if you're not wearing the right shoes when you go somewhere. Nobody in the legislature is going to care if you're not informed on that particular day. What people remember and what children will remember for you in this state is that you showed up. You fought. You told the truth. And you will be remembered for it. Thank you.